So I want to give you a perspective of a contrast between what we are calling the new rich formula and contrast it with the what I would like to call the old rich formula. That is the traditional way of doing business and growing, and contrasting it with the new way of doing it. So before we get to that, I want to throw ourselves back into Robert Kiyosaki's observation on why the rich get richer. So this is of course from the very popular book Rich Dad Poor Dad. If any of you have not read this book, I sincerely invite you to read it. So in this, one of the key things that is there in this book is what we have spoken about it before also. It is what's called the cash flow quadrant. So on the left side of the quadrant, we have the employee and the self-employed. Right side quadrant, we have the business owners and the investors. Now, 80% of the world's population is either an employee or a self-employed, and there is 20% of the money is here. The right side has 80% of the money with 20% of the population as being investors or business owners. Okay, now look at how the cash flow happens between the different classes of society. This is a we need to understand this clearly, and as far as we are concerned in our personal life also, we need to have an understanding about this. So if you look at the poor, their income statement is that there is income that comes in and there is expense, and that's it. Then more income, expense. There is nothing more that they have to save or do anything about. And if at all they have to do something else, they just take a loan and get into a whole trap with that loan. But otherwise, it's just between income and expense. When it comes to the middle class, there is income and then there is an expense, and there is some part of it which they divert towards not building assets but liabilities. Now, we let us have a clear understanding between these assets and liabilities. So, what do we do with our surplus income as a middle class person? Typically, we will save it, and tomorrow we will spend it on something that we can call a big expense, one, or we will add more money and buy something that is what we consider an asset. For example, typically a middle class person will aspire to buy a house of his own and have a car of his own, or have a wonderful, like a dream holiday, or have a fantastic education for their child for which they will take loans. So, all these things that a middle class person gets into is almost always through the model of an EMI. That means he takes a loan, and for the rest of his life, for 20, 30 years, he's just working to repay this loan. Okay. And what do we do with whatever is with that EMI? What is it that you get? If you buy a house, typically the house that they buy is for them to stay in. Now, the moment you are staying in your own house, the house is no longer an asset, because there is nothing you can do with that house in terms of generating an income. It is only a liability, because there will be maintenance, there will be all expenditures. You have to manage the house, electricity bill, everything. So those expenditures are all there, and it does not generate an income. So it is a liability. If you have a car, you own a car, that car is again for your personal use. The car needs petrol, it needs insurance, and it needs maintenance. So it's all expenditure, right? So typically, a middle class person, whatever surplus income he gets, he diverts it into building liability. By contrast, what does somebody who is a rich person do? He also gets an income, he also has expenses, but the surplus income, he diverts it towards generating assets. Okay. And the assets, the whole logic of building assets is that the assets start giving income again. So in course of time, what happens is that it is the assets which are generating income for him. And all the luxuries that he buys is from the income that is generated from his assets. It is not from his direct savings. This is a fundamental difference which all of us need to understand. With this understanding, let's go further. Now, the old rich business model, like a traditional business model, any of the traditional business models, okay. So typically, they all start with an upfront investment in the business. It is usually like large investment, and any of these traditional business models are always, till now, traditionally they have been started with people who are already entrepreneurs, who are already having a huge amount of money and they can invest it. It's only now that as a different generation of people are coming in, we will look at what is the catch in that. Typically, most of these business models are brick and mortar businesses. That means it will be like there will be some physical infrastructure. There is a factory, or there's a a restaurant. There is a physical place where there is business that is happening. There is an office, right? So it's typically a brick and mortar business. And for any typical business, it takes at least 5 years to break even and start making some profit. If at all they start making a profit. Most businesses tend to wind up before this 5-year period, simply because the expenditures that it takes to sustain any traditional business is simply too large. If successful, they scale it up, and over a period of 20 to 30 years, it will become a very big business. And when we say a business, a big business, we mean it from the context of Robert Kiyosaki's quadrant, where the initial stage of the business will be more like a self-employed person, where this person who set up the business is also slogging for as long a period. He's putting his effort, and in course of time, over a period of 20 to 30 years, he'll build a team. He'll have a huge employee structure. Dr. Velumani's Thyrocare is a very typical example of the old rich business model. Over a prolonged period of time, he builds it into a big business. Now, what is the downside? The one important point is that in the old rich business model, the entire life is spent in building his business. We are talking of a period of anything from 20 to 30 years. And by the time you are settling down to enjoy the fruits of the business, you're already too old to enjoy it. You're on your wheelchair, right? And it's only your children who will enjoy the fruits. This is a typical shortcoming of the old business model, and you will see it all around us. And this business model is typically considered acceptable. Now, the one important point to note is that this kind of business model suits big businesses because they have the money for upfront investment. Typically, the investment that we are talking about is anything from like a few lakhs to a few crores, right? And there is a risk of failure in the first 3 years. It's extremely high. And of course, it takes 5 years to start making a profit. When a newcomer or a person who has not been into business, let us say somebody from the middle class, is trying to get into entrepreneurship and start a conventional business, invariably they end up taking a loan, okay, to cater for the investment. And the hope is that the business will grow and they will be able to pay back the loan. Some cases it happens, many cases that does not happen. The investment we are talking about is anything from 10 lakh to a crore. But the interesting thing is this, that this kind of a model is considered acceptable and people take risks with this kind of a investment. Now, let's look at, again, back to the cash flow quadrant. See, at the end of the day, if you want money to grow, that is, if you want assets, you have to get into the space of an investor. At the end of the day, you have to reach there. Now, as an investor, what does an investor invest in? Typically, it is real estate, okay? Then they invest in gold, or they invest in shares, bonds, debentures, and that whole financial instruments, right? And they invest in businesses. You must have heard of investors who are putting money, who are like they say, that I am an investor in this company, I'm an investor in that company. Biobasics has got investors. So similarly, people invest in businesses also. And today, of course, this cryptocurrency is becoming a very fashionable thing to talk about. There seem to be a lot of risks associated with it. We don't have clarity, so we will not talk about that right now. So typically, investors are investing in real estate, gold, shares, and businesses. Now, it is typically business owners who have already built a huge surplus of income who are putting their big money into and become investors. That is, it's the business owners who move into investors. Now, what's happening now is that is very interesting. What the left-hand quadrant people are today trying to do is that they have recognized that investor is the space to get to. So they try to directly jump from here as an employee, they try to become an investor, or as a self-employed person, they try to become an investor. And you will recognize this in our day-to-day life. You will recognize this happening all around us. Probably in our own life, you will recognize this, and it is considered very, very acceptable. So when the E and S quadrant people try to get into the investment zone, again, they are getting into real estate. You get into a real estate means you are getting into an EMI trap because you don't have the money to invest. So somewhere you have to generate, put that upfront money. So typically the people get into a loan. Then into investments, all the other investments, whether it is gold or shares and all that, we put small amounts. Okay, that's how this whole systematic investment plan (SIPs) has come about. Small investments. This path to wealth is again a 20 to 30-year path to wealth. It is not a quick path. For a businessman, it is. For a businessman, he's not big money. He puts big money, takes out big money, right? But for people who are the employees and self-employed, this path is again a 20 to 30-year path to wealth. Okay. Now, in the process of trying to get there, what happens to that 20 to 30-year period? Typically, they live a very average kind of life, right? And there is no satisfaction because you are always trying to cut corners because you want to save and you want to invest. Okay. And family will feel the pinches, family will feel the compromises that, अरे यार, ये करना था, holiday जाना था, या वो जो भी करना था, whatever, you are compromising, continuously you are compromising. And finally, when you do reach wealth, you are again too old to enjoy the benefits. There are certain risks with this whole model, including that whenever you're thinking of getting to wealth over a 20 to 30-year window, there are certain risks. And we have to be aware of these risks. One is that anything can happen to us in that period of 20 to 30 years, right? Life is so unpredictable. Just look at how COVID has completely changed people's lives. There are so many of the, what do you call, bread earners, that is, main people who are earning employment in the family have passed away or have lost their job and they are stuck. So this whole thing of moving from here to here gets jeopardized. That is, your path to wealth gets jeopardized in this period of 30 years. So that risk is there. And for most part of our life, it is a life of thrift, that you cut corners, you try to find cheap sales and discounts, and that's the whole life that we lead, right? The very, very important point to notice is that we have no control over the investment. Whether it is real estate, see, today, if you invest in real estate, that I think, if my understanding is right, that right time to invest in real estate is probably gone. Today, anybody investing in real estate is not likely to have any significant return. Somebody who invested about 20 years ago, they will have the, they will be reaping the fruits of this uh, investment in real estate. Okay. So we don't have control over the market. Even if it is shares, even if it is gold, everything, we do not have control about how that whole investment goes. So you don't have control over your investment. It is market forces that is going to decide. And always there is a persistent fear that something can go wrong, right? So that in turn leads to stress, because if you are maintaining real estate, it costs money. Everything, there is a cost that is going when you are maintaining it. And the unfortunate part is that in that process of the stress building up, there is a high chance of just slipping back and saying, "Sab chodo, ye sab nahi karna hai. I will just live for today. I will just enjoy my life today and live." You're slipping back to that same mediocre life. But the point is this, that it is not that this is wrong or bad. It is definitely better than not doing anything at all. It is better than living a mediocre life that, just your income is coming, spending, income coming, spending. It's better than doing that. Definitely better. But it is not the smartest or the best way of doing it. So let's look at how do we contrast it with the new rich way to wealth. And this is, I want you to look at this as very true with our model also, our business model also. That you may have been an employee, or you may be self-employed, but once you get into this kind of an opportunity, a new rich model, you become your own boss in that business. First of all, there is a business. Okay. It is not, you're not jumping directly from an employee or a self-employed to an investor. You go through the route of business and then reach the investor. Number one. So you first go through a phase where you are self-employed, you are working hard, you are the one who's running the whole show. And then in course of time, you create leverage and you jump into the business model, the business mode, where you have a huge team. Okay. And that team, there is a system that works and all that. And once you reach that, then you go into investment. This is a wiser path to follow. Okay. Now, what are the characteristics of our model? First is that the possibility of achieving the same thing, the same wealth that is achieved in a period of 20 to 30 years, it is possible to short circuit it to a period of 3 to 5 years. Number one. Second, initial investment of money is very small. What is it that we are investing? We are investing largely, we are investing our time and energy. The money investment is very, very small, and therefore it is very easy for most people to get going into. And as the business grows, you will find that automatically your time investment will increase simply because it's more productive. You're actually getting good results and therefore you're putting more time. Right. Then after a point, leverage will start kicking in. So for the initially you are putting, that is initially you are in the self-employed mode and you are putting a lot of effort to make this thing move. But after a certain point in time, your time investment will start coming down once it goes into this zone, where you have a team with you, where you have, it could be even like a traditional kind of business model where there are employees, okay, where you have a huge employee network, that leverage will start kicking in. And you also, at that point, you will also have a system. You will create a system or somebody else will create a system, and that system works so that you become independent of it. That means whether you are there or not there, the system will take care of it, take care of the business running. Right. So what is special about this way, this model to wealth? One is that there is a very, very strong today's businesses, today's new rich businesses, by contrast to the traditional brick and mortar businesses, a very, very strong connection of trade with technology. There's a powerful support of technology that is taken to create big leverage. Let's take some examples. Online marketplaces. Look at Amazon and Flipkart. Okay, Amazon and Flipkart do not own any of the products that they are selling. They do not manufacture them. Nothing they do. They are just creating a space where somebody else can sell, and that's it. And there are buyers. They're just connecting the buyers and the sellers. Online marketplaces like Amazon and Flipkart, trading with technology, cab aggregators. Just look at the way Ola and Uber have revolutionized our entire life. Earlier, if you want to find a cab, you will go running, go hunting for a cab. You will go and haggle with him. He will tell, I will not come. Or he will say that I will charge some astronomical amount. That is from your point of view. From the cab owner's, cab driver's point of view, he will have an issue that, okay, I'm going to drop this person at that place. Udhar say, when I come back, I'm not going to have anybody. I have to come empty. So it's going to be so expensive for me, right? Smart thing that Ola and Uber have done is that they have brought these two together using technology and ensured that all uh, the customer also wins and the cab driver also wins. They have created a win-win situation. Hotel aggregators, look at those models. Oyo, Airbnb. Again, none of them, Oyo and Airbnb own nothing. They don't own any hotel. It is all brick and mortar, is all somebody else's. It's being run by somebody else. Everything else, they have just provided a platform and connected up the customers. Food service aggregators, Swiggy and Zomato. Again, not a single restaurant or a cooking facility is being owned by Swiggy and Zomato. They have just connecting the customer to the person who's preparing the food. So the point I'm saying is that today, trade with technology is a very, very essential and powerful component in the new rich business model. Okay. Then there is a system. Okay. The way the system is designed is that in course of time, the business can run by itself in your absence. Then there is leverage. The new rich model, if it's a model that is going to generate wealth in 3 to 5 years, it will have these components. That there will be leverage. That means initially it is your time investment that makes it work, but in course of time, it is when your team multiplies, the effort of the team. So you look at it, you take, I mean, if you take any of the Tata, Birla, any of these people, let us say Tatas have got some, what, 10,000 employees, maybe much bigger, but let's say 10,000 as an example. For Ratan Tata, one day of his life, okay, the amount of man hours that he is gathering or man days that he's gathering is 10,000 man days. Just in one day, he's gathering 10,000 man days of work gets done, right? So any system or any process that you have, which can create a mechanism by which it's not just you who's working, but many more like you who are working, that will create leverage. And the leverage also means that for every rupee that you earn, it is backed by the time and energy of many others and not just you. Right. This is a very, very beautiful and essential component of our model, of the New Rich model and our model in particular, that it is an interdependent business. So just look at it. If it is a job as a source of income, it is what I would call a dependent business. That means you are completely dependent on the company, you are completely dependent on your boss, because whatever the company says or whatever the boss says is what you will do. At the time that they say you come to work, you will go to work. They say you go, you will go. If they pay you salary, you get it. If you work, you get. If you don't work, you don't get. And they will decide whether you will take leave or whether you will continue in the job. So it is 100% dependence. The next level is the self-employed people. The self-employed people are in the mode of independence. The independence is not majorly different from dependence, except that there is no boss. But everything they have to do only by themselves, whether it is right from opening the shop to selling to tax filing to just about name it, everything they have to do. Right? That is the independence model. And again, there is no break, because if you are not there, the business stops, because it is an independent business and you are a one-man army. But this interdependent model is such a powerful model where we are creating a situation where it is a win-win opportunity. It is not if I have to succeed, if you look at our industry, if I have to succeed, my team has to succeed, right? So I do not have to look at my success. I have to focus only on my team succeeding. If I focus and ensure that I create spaces and situations and I support my team in generating an income for themselves, automatically I will create an income for myself. So it is a win-win opportunity, and this is interdependent. We are not doing the business by ourselves. We are doing the business together. We are taking each other's help. We are willing to give each other help. That is the beauty of this model. And very importantly, it is results-based. There will be some product or some service which is the core of this business, and that is what is driving the business. And that results of that is what people are looking for. And because there are results, people are coming to that business, that opportunity. Okay, as customers, if they're coming to it, it's because there are results. So it is results based and it is globally scalable. Any business model, that means, any business model that is not scalable will not be able to grow. It will become a one-man army or a few-man army. The only way is that it is scalable. So look at today. If the people have introduced franchising as a model in the conventional business, it is only because they want to make it scalable. And similarly, if it is globally scalable, that means wherever in the world business can happen or multiple places business can happen, you will earn money when you speak. Now, I want you to look at all this that we have said, the new rich way to wealth, in the context of our IndusViva opportunity. We have a very, very powerful trade with technology. Our entire business is online. And now, after this COVID, the entire training process, the support system, everything has gone online, right? We have a system. The one system that is available is the Vibrant Viva system. And our own team here, for the Tamil team, the Tamil speaking people, there's a very, very powerful system that is already set up. And very soon, this support system is going to get extended to non-Tamil speaking people. So all of you are going to benefit from this powerful system. And the beauty of a system is that once you plug people into the system can take care of their business and their growth if they are involved with it. Next is leverage. As we have said, We are looking at interdependence, and there is a team that we are creating, and that huge team of ours, the larger our team, the larger the leverage. Okay. So by building a very powerful and a vibrant team, you are creating a very powerful leverage in your business. As we said, interdependence. We need to only work for our team's success. We do not have to work for our success. I need to work only for your success. If I ensure you succeed, I will anyway succeed, right? You need to work only for your team. So you create a team and support your team in them succeeding. If they succeed, you will anyway succeed. Just remember, just look at the beauty of it, that I do not have to work for myself. I just have to, if I, in the process of helping somebody else, I am going to get help. Results based. It is, it can't be more true in our than in our thing. Our products are the heroes. Most of us, most of you here have had personal experiences with using products either with yourself or with somebody you know, and you know how potent they are. And it is this results based on which our entire business is running. So our products are our heroes, and we have to be very cognizant about it, and therefore have a thorough understanding of our products, because that is what is the, you know, the entire lubricant, the everything is centered around the product. Okay. And it is globally scalable. As you may be aware, we already have the business. Of course, it started in India, then it went on to Nepal. It's available in USA, Bangladesh, Rwanda. Very soon, it is going to get open up in Sri Lanka, the Middle East, and in Southeast Asia. And in course of time, I'm sure in many more countries. So we have a very, very globally scalable opportunity in our hand. Our ID is a global ID. I want you to understand this clearly. Remember this, that you have a global ID with you, sitting here wherever you are, whether in Delhi or Hyderabad or Bangalore or Dubai or Muscat, wherever you are. You can do the business in any part of the world. I hope all of you are aware that as of now, it is possible to even ship the products to any country around the world. Okay. If the consumer is, whoever is buying, is willing to pay the cost of the shipping, it can be shipped to any country in the world. There is a process available. So already it is globally scalable at a certain level. It is going to happen at a much, much, much bigger level. We can actually have teams doing business there. So this is the key things that I wanted to share with all of you. One, what is the difference? Why the old rich model is not wrong or bad, but it's not good enough. And it is smarter to focus on the new rich model. And in this new rich model, how our Indus Viva is completely aligned with this new rich way to wealth.